Wakey, wakey, John.
I'm awake.
We're recording.
I'm awake. I'm very awake. I'm woke, in fact.
You're woke.
I'm woke. I fucking hate woke people.
Why do you hate woke people?
How long have you got? Seriously.
I'll give you 30 seconds.
Oh, fucking hell, no, there's no point. It's like trying to say that let's build Rome, not in a day, but in 30 seconds, you know? Rome wasn't built in a day or 30 seconds. I mean, one of the worst things about... Okay, let me rise to the challenge. All right, I can say it in less than 30 seconds, but I probably can't explain. Oh, he's back. To the watchers and the listeners, I've just got Connor's fucking ugly face back on the screen. His internet shit. He can't handle technology, you see. Fucking millennials. So why do I don't hate the woke people. I don't hate anybody. This hating people is pointless. It's like swallowing poison and expecting someone else to die, you know. But I really don't like their... I just won't have anything to do with them. They're just pathetic waste of fucking space, you know. And the thing I think I dislike the most about the whole wokedom thing is the hypocrisy and double standards. You know, they will say quite openly it's wrong to judge people on their race, their gender, their sexual identity, their age, and all these things. But as soon as someone like me says something they disapprove of, they cannot help but point out I'm a white male, cisgender white male, you know? Well, that's just hypocrisy. Now, that's the very simplest thing. And an observation I will make is the people who use the hashtags be kind and empathy the most are the ones who actually demonstrate these qualities the least. Good example for you. I'm very open about the fact I have most people don't understand what empathy is. It comes in three parts: of affective, cognitive, and compassionate. I have zero affective empathy. My cognitive empathy isn't brilliant either, and even when it is, I'm indifferent to. I get why you're upset, but I still don't care about it. But my compassionate empathy is okay. You know, I do nice things for people, even though I get no emotional reward for it. I do it because it's a nice thing to do. But the empathy these people show to someone like me who has no empathy is astoundingly little. You'd think they'd feel sorry for me, wouldn't you? Because they say it's the most important quality. But you get someone who's born in a way so he doesn't have it, and what do? They criticise him. That's like criticising someone for being too black. You know, it is. Qualitatively, it's the same. So it's the double standards and the hypocrisy I really cannot stand. Don't even get me started on the stupidity. All right, because most of these people are left-wing socialist types, and socialism it fails every time, and it cannot but fail because of mathematics. You know, people are saying, here's a good thing, right? Is a very apposite point. People are saying the government in the UK should be capping the bills, capping prices. Well, if you want an example of exactly how fucking dangerous capping prices is when the government does it, just look at Venezuela. That's what they did in Venezuela. They capped the price of a lot of commodities, like some foodstuffs, toilet paper, that kind of thing as well. And what happened was they capped the prices to a point where there was no profit to be made in manufacturing these things, so they just stopped, which led to shortages, which meant the prices went right up anyway. You know, these people, they meddle in things they don't understand because they don't understand mathematics. So, you know, sometimes be fucking careful what you wish for, really. That answered your question. I could go on all day.
Do you understand how privileged you are to even hold those opinions?
Yes, I do. But you want to talk about double standards. When someone says to me about stoicism being a very white male privileged thing, how do you even get there? You know, my question to them is always, well, okay, does my white male privilege supersede or become subordinate to your neurotypical privilege? They don't like that. They've got no answer for me. They've never even fucking thought about it. You know why? Because they're stupid and incapable of rational fucking thought. And it's a genuine question, because neurotypical privilege is a thing. Isn't it?
If you say so, I'm sure it is.
Well, it is. If there's any kind of privilege, neurotypical privilege is as much of a thing as male privilege, white privilege, straight privilege, tall person privilege, whatever. Financial privilege, which is also a thing. The thing about privilege, and my mate Yinka, the Nigerian chick, she's very she confronts this very well because she says, white people are often privileged, but we're all privileged. And we can't we can't hammer out and flatten privilege and make it not existent. What we need to do is recognize it, maybe do things to help people who are underprivileged. But if we have the privilege, fucking use it. You know, I mean, I'm not trying to put words in her mouth, or maybe I could have her message wrong, certainly in the detail. But it's true. What are we supposed to do? We can help. We can extend a hand to help others up, right? If we are privileged, of course we can. But dragging us down to their level, into their swamp, doesn't help anybody. That's another thing. I mean, socialism is predicated on all of us being equally poor,
I I wonder if people recognise their equal leg length privilege on a daily basis. When I put
Yeah,
on my trousers and one side is perfectly tailored and the other side is just slightly too long or slightly too short.
absolutely.
God damn, these people with equal legs.
We've all got some kind of privilege. It's just people, we talked, I think it was yesterday or a couple of episodes ago, we talked about what people focus their attention on, things they don't control. And other people's privilege is one of them. It makes there's no mileage in me pissing and moaning and wailing and gnashing my teeth about neurotypical privilege and trying to drag neurotypical people down to my level of incompetence in certain things. Now, all I can do is focus on, okay, so what does it mean for me and what can I do to ameliorate it? Well, in my particular case, I actually use what could be seen as being disadvantages into advantages. Lack of emotion. Okay, well, that could be a disadvantage. Well, it is a disadvantage in some cases. But how can I turn it into an advantage? Well, how about I use it in my mentoring and my coaching, the small amount of coaching I do, and certainly the mentoring, because it means I don't get pulled into my clients' emotional bullshit. That's an advantage. If I'm mentoring someone, being pulled into their angst doesn't help either of us. Swings and roundabouts, two sides of the same coin, however you like to put it.
You know that's one of my favourite things, don't you?
What is?
Taking disadvantages and then spinning it as an advantage in marketing, making the skeletons dance.
Yeah, well, it is a skill, and it's one I've practiced. I mean, it's if you think about it as well, it's very much. Here's another great example, right? A guy messaged me the other day, and in response to my message pitch for selling the book, he said he got no money. The direct response copywriter from Nigeria. And he said he's got no money. I says, well, you tell me you're a direct response copywriter. Does your stuff not work for you then? And he said, no. He said, I've got no idea why I'm not making any sales. So I sent him a copy of the book for free, and I recorded a Loom video. And part of the problem I said to him was, not being funny, mate, but you being Nigerian is going to go against you with many people, simply because there's so many scams coming out of Nigeria. And he took that on the chin and says, yeah, I know. I've actually had people say this to me. Well, it's completely unfair. It really is, and it's wrong, but it's understandable, and it's a fact. So I said to him, if this is an objection from people, and I've observed it as an external person, and you've experienced it, you probably do well to bring this up very early on in all your marketing, because if you don't mention it, they won't. If people are thinking about it, you not mentioning it won't make them forget it, will it? So you have to bring up these disadvantages. I mean, I'll bring up me being autistic straight away because they're going to find out anyway at some point. Even if they can't put a name to it, they'll realize I'm a bit fucking odd. So it's easier for me to bring it up because one, then it shows my integrity, my honesty, but also it allows me to control the dialogue around it and put my spin on it. So yeah, it is a skill, and it's something people should do more.
Yeah, own the downside. Make it your bitch.
Mm. Yeah, it's not like it'll go away because you ignore it, will it? Is it?
Yeah, and if you're aware of it, your prospects are either aware of it already or they're going to become aware of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the elephant in the room. So make that skeleton dance. Imagine if we skirted around your tisms. Imagine. And then people turned up for a meeting and it was like, oh, we don't talk about why John. We don't talk about why John's a bit weird.
No, don't mention the war. Have you seen that episode of
Yeah.
Faulty Towers? Don't mention the war. That's what it would be like.
Yeah, you've sent me a clip of it. I haven't seen the whole episode.
Don't mention John's weirdness.
It's important though. It's really important to own the downside and to learn to make your skeletons dance. It's I'm trying to think of other examples now and I'm pulling a blank. It'd be like not having, if you're a kitchen fitter, not being able to use your kitchen for 2 weeks. Like, how can you make that negative a positive? Well, now you can go try those restaurants that you've been meaning to try for weeks.
Oh, another good example might be you break your leg, so you're stuck on the fucking sofa for 2 weeks or something. Okay, that's 2 weeks you could spend reading books to learn about something you've been interested in for a while.
That's more. Well, I suppose it is making the skeletons dance.
It's a reframe.
Yeah, it is a reframe. Do you want to know something really interesting that I learned this morning about reframing?
Always looking to learn, mate.
I'd recommend it to everyone. I know you don't like other podcasts other than our own, John. However, I think you'd find this particularly interesting. I don't listen to Jordan Peterson's podcast. However, I do subscribe to it and I listen to probably one in every 50 he releases. Today, he released one with Andrew Huberman, who, again, I don't listen to every episode, but I listen to a lot more often than I listen to Jordan Peterson. And it's really fucking good. It's really, really fucking good. And Andrew Huberman was saying by simply reframing things, and I'm not going to get into the science words and stuff that he uses because I don't understand them well enough and I will fuck it up. But the long and short of it was by simply reframing something, your body releases calming signals throughout your body. So just by reframing, even if it's a good reframe, bad reframe, by attempting to reframe it, your body sends out a signal to calm down. Your blood pressure drops, your heart rate lowers, etc., etc. So you should constantly be reframing anyway.
That's fascinating. And if you think about it, reframing is a classic Stoic practice as well, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. And now there's neuroscience studies and data that shows reframing does weird shit to the hypothalamus, and then it sends out signals to the body to chill the fuck out.
What makes me laugh is NLP, neuro linguistic programming. The acolytes of that, or more like zealots of that, they seem to think they invented reframing. They didn't invent shit. Reframing has been around for probably as long as we've been human. You know, look on the bright side. That very simple phrase in the common lexicon. What's that if it's not what's that if it's not encouraging you to reframe things? Every cloud has a silver lining.
It is.
They're just different ways of talking about reframes. So if you're an NLP person listening to this, take everything they taught you about NLP with a fucking huge sack of salt. Because the greatest success of NLP is selling NLP coaching and education to people interested in it. Swallow that one. I've now upset a lot of people.
People won't like that.
No, they won't.
A lot of people, especially if there's coaches listening.
But it's true.
It certainly is true, mate.
I mean, don't get me wrong. NLP has got some very useful tools in it, but there's a few things. One, they've not really invented these tools, you know. And the second thing is, you may have got, with NLP, you may have a fucking massive toolbox the size of an elephant, and the bits that are actually useful are probably the size of an electrician's toolbox. You know, there's a lot of fucking shit in there. A lot of it's just made up. It's certainly not backed up by science. It's full of confirmation bias, etc., etc., etc. the bits that are actually supported by research, or even indeed reasonable empirical evidence, when they will, for instance, what they tend to do is they will pick out their successes and forget all the failures. And if people do fail at these techniques, they haven't done them right. Well, that's unscientific. If you cannot falsify a hypothesis, it's unscientific. Yeah, survivor bias, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, survivor bias. But John, this is why we have things in our business such as Triage, so we don't end up working with crazy people like that, and instead we work with the far superior CBT lot.
Well, CBT has got some. I mean, I'm a big fan of CBT. It's got some very useful parts to it. Again, it can be detrimental. I mean, CBT is a little bit like a surgeon's scalpel, I think. It's something which, if you're using it, if you're going to use it, you probably need to be quite skilled at doing it. You need to know how to use the tool properly. I know a few therapists who have got some pretty negative things to say about CBT, and to be fair, I don't know enough about it.
Interesting.
To be able to refute or agree with their points. I do know CBT has got some good points, such as negative visualization, which comes straight from classical Stoicism. So I don't really have an opinion on CBT other than to say, again, a bit like NLP, it's got some very useful parts to it. Difference being, CBT, certainly in part, is clinically proven to be effective. And for those who are listening, CBT we're talking about here is cognitive behavioral therapy, not that's an entirely different thing.
If someone came through our systems and they were into, well, Triage wouldn't filter them out.
No, it wouldn't. Yeah, Triage, for those who are listening and aren't familiar with the term, certainly in our context, it came from the world of medicine, and it's simply a way to dish out or apportion scarce resources where they're most effective. Like in medicine, you've got an accident, a train crash, or you've got a battlefield. You've got three kinds of people. You've got people who will live without treatment, people who will live only with treatment, and people who will die regardless of whether they get treatment or not. And triage is basically a way of, with high probability, picking out the ones who won't survive without treatment. Basically, those who survive with it, they might be in pain, but they're not going to die. Those who are going to die anyway, it sounds cold and callous, but you don't waste resources on them because that's what you're doing. So you need to focus. Now, what we're doing is a similar thing in triage in business, is we are spending our time and focusing our energy only on those people who are going to be willing, those people we can help, those people we actually want to help, and the people who can and will pay for our help. If all of those three don't get a yes answer, and every single one has to get a resounding yes, not a maybe, all right, or it could turn out so. If they're not yes, then you just stop the dialogue right away, because you're wasting your time. You are wasting precious resources on someone who with very high probability can never become a client. And let's be very clear about something. So when I say client, I mean someone who's paying you. I get quite frustrated when I see people saying, I was talking to a client the other day and then they ghosted me. And then I'll say, well, did they pay you? No, they hadn't paid anything. Well, they weren't a client then. They were not a client until they've paid you. That's it. They were a prospect or a suspect or maybe just a wannabe. I don't know. But the fact is they were not a client until they paid you. And because they're not clients, they deserve nothing from you other than common respect.
So why do we triage?
So we don't waste our time on people who cannot become clients, either because they can't pay us or don't want to pay us, because we can't help them, because either sometimes the problem they've got is insoluble, sometimes it's outside our skill set, sometimes say the time frame is too short, we don't have capacity, whatever, and also if we don't want to help them because we don't like them, we don't like their business model, we find them rude, obnoxious, unethical, whatever. So that's why we do it. So we get to that no, going back to yesterday's episode, we get to that no as soon as we possibly can. with triage questions. Can I help you? Do I want to help you? Can you afford? And are you willing to pay me for my help? And if any one of those is anything but a yes, we stop because we are wasting our time. That's very different. I mean, the first question, can I help you? I think most people very quickly understand that's ethical, because I don't think anyone, even people who actually do it, they know it's wrong to take people's money knowing you can't help. I think everyone knows that. The second one, do I want to help you? People struggle with more because it almost goes against the grain. The customer is always right, and I'm here to serve. Yeah, but you're here to serve, but not be servile, you know? There are some things you just don't want to do, such as I won't work with people doing MLM, multi-level marketing, pyramid scheme type stuff. I could do it. I know that I can help them. I just don't want to. It's unethical, right? And people eventually get that. Once they get their head around the idea of rules and boundaries and stuff, and target markets and stuff, they do very, not say very quickly, but they will come around. I don't know anyone who's ever been resolute in saying, "Oh, I have to work with everyone just because they want me to." The third one, though, about payment, is the one where people really fucking struggle, and they will dress it up in all kinds of emotional, logical bullshit, like, well, I like to help people. We've had this one before. Well, does that mean if you like to help people, say you do it for free, does it mean when they pay you, you're not helping them anymore? What kind of fucking twisted logic is that? You know? And you need to give value. Well, you don't need to give value. And what most people mean when they say giving value is they mean you solve their problems for them, or you help them solve their problem, give them advice. Actually, I mean, you get people doing things like SEO audits and copy audits and website audits for free. Well, that makes no sense either. Yeah, giving value. I mean, probably else. What does value mean? Sometimes just saying to someone, yes, I understand your problem, and yes, there is a solution. Well, that's valuable to know that, because up until that point, you might have thought this problem doesn't have an answer. So just learning there is a solution, no matter what it is, there is a solution. That's valuable. Well, that's giving value, isn't it? Yeah, is the answer to that one.
Simply telling someone that you have here's a problem, here's the name of it. They go, oh, thank God, you tell the story of Dev.
Yeah, okay, the cancer surgeon. Yeah. Well, following on from that, I mean, so people will then say, well, if you're not giving information and showing people how to solve their problems, how do you demonstrate your competence? Very easily. If you just show people you understand their problems at a deep level, they will almost always accept you also know how to solve it. Of course, that's a non sequitur, because some problems don't have a solution, even though you understand what it is. And the example you were alluding to there is my friend Dev, the cancer surgeon. People will come to him and he'll go through the shit and they'll diagnose it. And it'll say to them, I know what your problem is. You've got this kind of cancer. Here's what it means. Here's what it's doing, blah, blah, blah. And they have this massive sense of relief. At last, they understand the reason behind this pain or this whatever's going on in their bodies. They now know what the problem is. And they'll go, oh, great. Now, what do we do about it? And he might say, well, actually nothing, because you're going to die anyway. But I still can tell you what's wrong with you. And even then, the follow on from that is, even when they get the most awful news, it's terminal no matter what we do, they still feel a sense of relief because they understand what they're dealing with. So please, everyone listening to this, you don't have to give away loads of value, in the sense of you don't have to solve people's problems for them. You can do it just as effectively by showing them you understand what their problem is. And I guess that would be a form of empathy, cognitive empathy for sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure everyone has known someone who has battled a health issue of some form for quite some time, and they get so fed up with it that they're praying for a diagnosis, when in reality, sometimes the best thing would be not getting diagnosed and you're just having a bit of a health blip and there's actually nothing wrong enough with you, so it's got a name. But they're just, I've heard people say like, oh, I just wish I've just got Crohn's or something. I'm like, what do you mean you wish you have Crohn's? They're like, I'm just tired of not knowing what it is. It's like, but you don't want to wish yourself that upon you. Are you mental? And they're like, I'm so fed up. I just want a name. I just want to know what's wrong with me. It's like,
Yeah.
but you don't want to wish that upon yourself. Like, what the fuck? They're like, I don't give a shit. I just need to know what it is. I just want to know. And people would sooner rather give themselves chronic problems than be waiting in suspense.
Yeah, and when they get a diagnosis, even when it's a horrible one, they feel a sense of relief because they know what they're dealing with.
Yeah, happiness.
Human beings in general don't like uncertainty. Learning to deal with uncertainty, and sometimes even relishing it and embracing it, is a learned skill. It's actually part of the Stoic way of thinking as well, because we accept we don't control these things. So we can execute our plans perfectly. We can execute the perfect plan perfectly, but we still don't control the results. And this is why I say to people, predicating your happiness, your equanimity, your sense of self and self-esteem, and your measure of your own success on the results you achieve is a mistake. Because no matter how well you execute your plan, you might not reach your goals. And people say, yeah, but I'm in control of that. I'm in control of my goals. If I try hard enough, I'm bound to reach them. No, you could die before you do that. The analogy I use is an archer with a longbowman, and he can execute the shot perfectly. Now, because they could put an arrow, a 3-foot arrow, through the visor of a French knight at like 300 paces, ridiculously accurate. It took 10 years to get that good or so, but they could do this. But even so, the best archer in the world could loose the arrow, having drawn the perfect shot. Now, it could be a textbook shot, but in the time between the arrow leaving the string and going through the knight's visor and skewering the Frenchman in the head, a bird could sweep down and knock the arrow off course. A wind could come up. The knight could trip. The arrow could shatter as it leaves the bowstring, as they occasionally did. They're all beyond the archer's control. All he can do. I'm using he deliberately because there were no women longbowmen or longbow persons. It wasn't a woman's thing. Not as far as I'm aware, anyway. Not the old English longbow. Regardless of how well the archer draws this bow, lines up the shot and takes the shot, the eventual outcome is absolutely beyond his control. And the same is true of your goals and your marketing plan. I mean, there's a guy back in, I can't remember his name now, but there's a guy, it might have been Stuart something or other. Anyway, Stuart Goldman. I can't remember his name. It's Gold something or other. Anyway, Stuart Goldsmith. I think it was him. He had a marketing campaign set up over a Sunday weekend. Ads in the Sunday papers, it wasn't a landing page at the time, I don't think, but it was all set up, and it had hitherto proven to be very successful. But it bombed on this weekend, and the reason being, it was the weekend Princess Diana got killed in a car crash. So although the ads went out, no one was interested in that shit. They were all reading the front pages, a bit like the Queen's funeral type stuff. So it had executed the perfect marketing plan, a proven marketing plan, and it bombed that weekend because of something beyond his control. And you've got to understand this, people. You really do. I saw a post, somebody sent it to me this very morning, today being Friday, recording this, and there's some content marketing piece of shit posting on LinkedIn saying, basically, forget your website. People aren't going to flock to your website. Put everything on social media. I can't think of many things more stupid than that, because your LinkedIn account, your Facebook account, your Instagram account, your TikTok account, your Quora account, your Instagram, all of them, they are given to you like grace and favor. You don't own them. They can and do delete them for any reason or no reason at all. My Instagram account, I got it deleted. I've got no idea why. I kind of asked them, well, why have you done this? Is there an appeal process? Which there is. Didn't get a response. I'm indifferent to it. It doesn't matter. I just opened a new one. I lost my first LinkedIn account. You don't have any control over it. So why, for the love of all that's fucking holy, would you put all your eggs in someone else's basket? Seriously. It's fucking stupid. These people they're charging for this advice as well, I'm sure. That's the value they're giving, Connor.
That is some value. I want to take it back to the archer quickly, because I read that archers are more accurate if they don't know when they're releasing the arrow. There's command release and surprise release, and they have setups that allow the bow to go without their setup. And on average, people are far more accurate with surprise release because people can't control anticipation, the cortisol, the adrenaline, and everything that rises when they know they're about to let go. So they perform much better when it's surprise release because they're then focusing on their actions and not the outcome. I found it very interesting.
Never heard that one, but it's worth looking into. I do know, because of the way the bow has about 160-pound draw on it, which if you imagine is a bit like picking me up off the floor like this with your rear delts and your fucking rhomboids, you know. So they don't aim like this with that kind of bow. They have to turn this way. Well, that means they're aiming with their body, not so much with their eyes. So they used to sense where the arrow was going to go, and it became intuitive. And just, I think this is probably a similar thing when you read accounts of it, and also in the historical novels which are factually based. They just aim and let go without any conscious thought to it. They just do it instinctively. I think that's what similar to what you're talking about. It's like
back then, probably as close as they can get.
A little bit like we drive a car. I mean, when you've been driving for 40 years like I have now, you don't think about changing gear, indicators. What does this sign mean? Not when you're in a familiar road. If you go abroad, it's
intuitive.
Well, you don't even think about it. It's like a language. And I actually had this conversation with a linguist. I said, well, he didn't drive. And I made the comparison of me driving down this road and all the signs, and there's hundreds of different signs and other signals you get from road users, even seeing how cars are moving. It's all subliminal now. It's all intuitive. It's unconscious competence. You don't stop to think. And I guess this is why learner drivers get killed in crashes more often than experienced drivers. Because when they say go into aquaplane, they panic. Whereas for someone like me, I'd take aquaplaning in my stride. It's happened loads of times. We were going down this road on the way to Cork, and going around a bend, the road opens out into two lanes. I took the outside lane where I was perfectly entitled to be. And a car came the wrong way over the double solid lines in my lane.
Oh, nice.
And I didn't panic. I just tapped the brakes and just pulled round him and back in again. And the funny thing is, if it had hit me, I'd got this fucking great big Land Rover and he'd got this shitty old Ford Escort. He'd have been dead.
Bless him.
And I'd have been like, did something just happen, Sarah?
I think we just swatted a fly.
I don't think my heart rate even increased. It was just, didn't even think about it. I didn't even put both hands on the road. I just went, you know.
Focused on the process, not the outcome.
Fascinating stuff, really. Human beings. But we triage then because we don't want to waste our time. And we got off topic, really. We don't want to waste our time on people we can't help or don't want to help or who can't pay us or don't want to pay us. And, sometimes people might fail our triage tests for just kind of almost accidental reasons. They're just not the right person. They're in a business we don't want to help. They've got no money or whatever. It doesn't really matter. But also, triage will also stop you from being ripped off. Good example. Very common these days is, manager might say to a team leader, let's think about outsourcing our social media. How much is it going to cost us? So what this team leader will then do is maybe write a list of, we need someone to write the social media, we need someone to then schedule it, do the research. How much is that going to cost? I'll go and ask a copywriter or a social media person. So they'll say, hey, can I pick your brain for 20 minutes? And they'll go through and they're asking all these very intelligent questions on how to implement this project. And of course, the hapless fucking copywriter or social media twonk thinks, great, these are really keen. They're asking all the right questions. These people are really keen. This is a done deal.
They're showing the buying signals.
Yeah. And then to sweeten the deal, they'll start giving advice too. Well, here's what I would do here. Yeah, I do this many posts trying to demonstrate their worthiness, their expertise. But of course, it's all a waste of time because this team leader is only looking for a price. How much it's going to cost and what do we get for our money? So the way to ameliorate that one, or try to mitigate that one, is you charge for that kind of call. At that point, the team leader will say, "Oh, okay," or will probably just ghost you actually, because if you say to them, "Okay, I think I can help you with this project," the next stage is a consulting call where we'll go over a blueprint. So by the time you finish, you know exactly the steps you need to take to get you from where you are now to where you want to be. Lasts about an hour. It costs £250 plus VAT. And at the end of it, if I can't help you, or we end up working together, you get your money back. Well, the team lead, anyone who's genuinely interested in your work will pay that without question because they want to get their problem solved. Someone who's just kicking tires or looking for you to gather information for them so they can do their feasibility study, they don't have a budget. They're not going to pay you. So you might think, "Oh shit, I've lost a client or a prospect," but you haven't. You've saved yourself a lot of fucking time. People need to get this through their fucking heads. People who won't pay for a consulting call like that, especially with that money back guarantee, almost certainly we're never ever going to pay you at all for whatever reason. No budget, no inclination, going to do it themselves, whatever. All right. But the point is, if they won't pay you for a consultation, they were never going to pay you at all. Sometimes you'll be wrong, but that's okay because you miss out on one good client in that case. But what you do avoid is probably taking on or certainly wasting your time with 9 unsuitable people. And that was a good clip.
Yeah, and the time that you save, that was a fantastic clip. And the time that you save will help you more than make up for missing out on that one client, because hopefully you'll save yourself several hours. And in that time, if you're any halfway efficient or decent at marketing, you should be able to find a client in that time, especially if you've got a good offer for a good service. And on that note, John, got to wrap up because I've got to talk to Holly and I'm 6 minutes late.
All right. See you later. Anyway, everyone, if you want to learn how to do triage, very quickly, if you want to learn how to do triage, and I mean step by step, I walk you through it, okay? Go to well-fedfreelancer.com and get the book for £5 with a double your money back plus pizza guarantee. You cannot possibly fucking lose. I teach you triage. It's the most important thing I teach you. It's probably one of the most important things I teach anywhere. Premium pricing, positioning, and triage are probably the 3 most important things I teach. Job done. Well-fedfreelancer.com. See you later. Go speak to my daughter. Rather you than me.
Goodbye.